Good afternoon, members. My name is Thomas Kirkpatrick, and I'm chair of the PIP's National Elections Committee. I'd like to welcome you to the 2021 Part-Time Vice President's Town Hall. This is the third event in a series of town halls brought to you by the National Elections Committee to allow members to hear from candidates prior to the vote. There will be an additional town hall for president on October 15th. The event will be conducted in both official languages with simultaneous interpretation provided. Should you require interpretation, please set your language requirements in Zoom now. The event will be recorded and available on the PIP's website for viewing after the event as soon as it goes through translation. Please be aware that the questions used in this and other town hall events in this series were submitted in advance, and no questions from the floor will be taken. Please also note that the chat feature has been disabled between attendees for the event so that members and candidates are able to focus their attention on the questions being asked. Please use the chat if you need to communicate with the organizers or you're having technical difficulties. The purpose of these town halls is for members to get a chance to know where the candidates stand on issues and to get to know them better in advance of the vote. It is not the purpose of these town halls to engage in dialogue with members, and while that's an important function of the union, it's not the intent of this event. The Elections Committee strongly encourages you to reach out to any and all candidates using the email links and contact information on the PIP's Elections website to ask them any questions you have or to ask their positions on any specific issues. Now, on behalf of the entire committee, I'd like to welcome our moderator, Ms. Lise Habibi, an experienced professional facilitator that some of you may recognize since she's done work for PIPs in the past. Ms. Habibi will now explain the town hall's process and rules. Welcome, Ms. Habibi.
Thank you, Tom. It's great to be here and a pleasure to be working with PIPs again. En français, comme Tom vient de le dire.
As Tom just said, the session will be presented in both official languages, and if you need for interpreting services, choose your language using the Zoom interpreting button. If you have technical difficulties, please send a message to the LMB technician.
From candidates from the role of part-time vice president. You have 7 candidates. I believe only 5 of the candidates are here today. Each candidate will share an opening statement about their vision for PIPs. Then they will take turns answering the same 4 questions and will end with a final takeaway message. The questions for the 4 town halls were selected to provide a variety of topics and perspectives. And for those people attending all the town halls, we're not repeating question from town hall to town hall. So this panel did not have on its list of questions a question on mandatory vaccination. However, given the announcement yesterday, we may add a 5th question at the end of the panel if time allows. So, fair warning to the candidates and also to participants, we might get an extra question squeezed in there at the back end if time allows, and hopefully you'll have time at break to think ahead on what your answer to that might be. So there will be a 5-minute bio break after the first 2 questions. And the speaking order was first set without names using the following rules. We wanted to give all candidates an opportunity to be among the first and among the last to answer a question. We scrambled the sequence so candidates would not always answer in the same order. Did not place a candidate in the same spot in the sequence 2 questions in a row. Candidates who speak first and last in the vision speak in the middle on the takeaways. No candidate speaks last on one question, then first on the following, and finally using the same sequence for the first question as for the prepared introductory statement on your vision, just to give you equivalent time to prepare since the questions were only shared a few minutes ago. Just to say that since there are 2 candidates not showing up, that might actually make me break some of those rules, because all I'll do is I'll skip them and move on to the next person in the order that was established. Une fois le cadre établi.
Once the framework has been established, I pulled the candidate's name out of the box by random, and some of you were present. We just did a few minutes, so the candidates are in the order in which they will be presenting their vision statement. I just want to make sure Dean Kamaldin, Eva Henshaw, Peter will be skipped, he's not present, David Young, David Chu, Sylvia Boucher. Stephanie is not there, so Stephanie Fréchette would have been the seventh person. The time allotted is 2 minutes for your answers, and I think Hugo will be keeping track of the time. We don't have to do that right away. Oh, he's already ready with the 2 minutes. So 2 minutes for the beginning and the end, and 90 seconds to answer the questions. If we add the fifth question on mandatory vaccination, we'll see how much time is left over. If we give, we'll see how much time we give you for that. The two first questions were sent to you a few minutes ago, and two questions that will be asked after the break will be sent just at the beginning of the break. That'll give you about 5 minutes to prepare your answers.
There will, as Tom mentioned, not be time today for questions from the floor. We're working from questions that were sent in advance. And many thanks to those who submitted questions for the committee's consideration. And also, as he mentioned, the chat has been disabled so people can focus on the conversation that's happening here with your candidates. One final point before we start on the opening statements, and this is to our candidates. You have the timing. I will interrupt at the when time is out. I will ask you to stop speaking at that point. I'd hate to have to resort to the mute button. Haven't had to yet. It's a lot more elegant to finish a few seconds early than to get cut off in mid-sentence. So I'm counting on you to help us manage that. And so that is my introduction, and we will step right into now the opening statements. So as I mentioned, Dean, you are up first. You have 2 minutes. Please go ahead. And you are still muted, right? There's always at least once.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, bonjour. My name is Dean Kamaldin. I'm from the Ontario region. I'm AFS group member. My vision is really three things, and I'll start with membership interest, membership benefit, membership representation. So my central theme to my vision is membership. I'm here to serve the membership. The first task that I have for my vision is to build the board of directors consensus to implement PIP's mandate and values to defend member rights and interest, provide sound fiscal management with complete disclosure and transparency, protect our pension, and end human rights violations. I'll close again with the three themes, the main theme behind my vision. Membership interest is first and is the only interest I'll be serving. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Up next is Eva. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Eva Henshaw. As far as my vision goes, it involves a lot of work. A vision that sees PIP's policies and bylaws adhering to the core values of what a union should stand for. Looking at the PIP's leadership, I want to see a board of directors that's functional, listens to and acts upon what the membership wants and needs are. A board of directors that makes decisions transparently, one that is accountable to the membership, one that values each officer's opinions, one that is free of pressures to voting particular ways. I want to review our fiscal management and make any necessary changes. From a union perspective, I want to see the power of the membership be brought back to the forefront of our union. In the next 3 years, I want to revamp how we engage our members, how we train our stewards, and how we leverage our bargaining team. We need to put in place solutions that will work, whether our members are at the employer's workplace, whether they're working from home or they're abroad. You and I need to ensure that we educate, engage, and empower our members. We need to continue the fight for our priorities, like on contracting out, pensions, human rights, discrimination. Lastly, on the business perspective, we need to take a deep dive into our policies. What issues and problems do they cause? Are they there for the right purpose? A review of our staff to ensure that we have the right amount of support in the areas that we need them. Our staff needs to be there to support our union, not run our union. On the PIPS website, we describe our purpose, our mandate, values, and strategies. And we've lost sight of those values, and I want to focus on bringing those all back. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. David Young, you're up next.
Hi, everyone. David Young. I've been a long time member of the union, 25 years union steward, and been involved in most aspects and groups, branches of the union through the year at the executive level. My vision, it's just a vision statement, union where every member enjoys an inclusive and healthy workplace, where diversity is a common element for all race, color, your place of origin, religion, whether you're an immigrant or a newcomer, your ethnic origin, your abilities, sex, your sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, creed, and age. I think it's important to focus on these areas in the next 3 years. And there's a lot of education to be done in those areas. And I think it's an area that I think the union should be investing more time and effort in reaching more of our members. And I'm talking about our members across the full political spectrum, whether you're on the left or whether you're on the right. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, and it's important for this union to provide a very balanced educational system for our members so they can become more knowledgeable in these areas. I think from there, all else falls into place with respect to our workplace and making it a better place. When I speak of creed, I also speak of a set of beliefs or aims which guide someone's actions. And I really think that this aspect of this whole discussion needs to have something that's greater than the sum of its parts.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
We're at time. All right, David
Yep.
Chu, you're up next.
Good afternoon, everyone. My vision for PIPS over the next 3 years. PIPS is proactive, fair, open, and transparent, and is the union of choice in the 21st century. A board of directors that will respect the motions passed at our annual general meetings. We hold ourselves and others accountable to our values. We accept diversity and tolerate difference of opinions and healthy dissent so that we can work as a team to achieve our common goals. PIPS is financially healthy and stable without the need to increase membership dues. We engage newer members and build a sense of belonging and commitment to the union so that they can carry the torch as demographics shift. We increase our membership base by making use of modern technology such as blogging and social media to reach potential members that are unrepresented. In bargaining, we negotiate better wages, benefits, and working conditions, wages that keep up with the rate of inflation. PIPS and our workplaces are diverse, equitable, and inclusive because we have identified, removed, and prevented systemic barriers, harassment, and discriminatory practices. We are working with employers to ensure a safe return to your workplaces. The hybrid model will likely be the norm unless you're working in critical positions such as frontline workers. Therefore, we need adequate resources to support your mental health and well-being. Phoenix issues are resolved to the satisfaction of affected members, and we are making significant progress on the next generation pay system by working in collaboration with Serve Services Canada. Staffing levels, such as for employment relations officer at the Institute, are more than sufficient to support our membership. We built new tools and services to support our members in addressing the challenges of tomorrow. Lastly, a continuous effort to improve all elements of PIPS, such as processes, tools, and services. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And last is Sylvia. Go ahead, please.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you.
I want to acknowledge that I'm on the traditional unceded Algonquin Anishinaabe territory. My vision for the next 3 years is to rebuild, to renew, to lead, and to re-engage with the membership and professional allies. I would like to see PIPS focus on its members' needs, such as adequate and timely representation, improved communications at all levels and in both official languages, support and action on the ongoing Phoenix issues and the next gen pay system, responsiveness to issues raised in consultations, modernized collective agreements, which include wage increases that at the very least keep up with the current and projected rate of inflation. I would like to see PIPS adopt a more strategic position at the bargaining table in order to anticipate the employer's position and react for the benefit of its members. My vision is for PIPS to respect its members and be accountable to them. I would like to see members proud of their union and engaging in its activities for the intrinsic benefit of building relationships and collaboration. J'aimerais voir notre syndicat respecter
Would
ses
like our
membres.
union to respect its member and motions presented at the AGM, a union that is committed to struggling for its member at the workplace or wherever for training and career advancement, a union for all, for marginalized, the Asians, Blacks, and other LGBTQ2S, the women, young people, and people who are not as young, to provide.
I would like PIPS to be a more inclusive union, one that does not pit one generation or class of members against the other, one that walks the talk of being better together. My vision is to be part of a team of professionals promoting and defending the rights and interests of its professional public service members so that they can themselves proudly serve Canadians from coast to coast to coast. I want to put you and I back in union. Madame Présidente.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. I'm going to need a very quick pause here, and I will come back to you with the questions. I believe I am on a list of questions that is the questions for other candidates. So this is my first major mistake in this series of town halls. Give me just a moment and I will come back with the right question here. The first question will be asked in French. Hugo, can I ask you to send me that email, please?
Oui.
Merci. Ça allait trop bien, mais je pense que les difficultés techniques.
Things were going too well, but the last minute technical difficulties messed me up.
And I guess I had the wrong questions because it's a question on the vaccine, and I knew that wasn't our first question for today. So you've got a bit of time, candidates, to prepare your responses for that first question. Okay, there we go. Comme je disais, je vais poser la question en
As I
français.
said, I'll be asking this question in French, and you have 90 seconds to answer the question. I'll ask it twice so that the participants can take note of it, because it's a rather long question. So number one, the order of answering will be this first one. During the past 18 months, members have been working from home effectively. However, in this frame time, the employers benefited from members having to use their resources, computers, internet, utilities, living space, etc., without compensation, while the employer stands to save considerable money by abandoning leases at various work sites across the country. What will you do to ensure that members are no longer carrying the financial burden of the employers?
Depuis 18 mois, les membres télétravaillent efficacement. Cependant, depuis, l'employeur bénéficie.
During the past 18 months, members have been working from home effectively. However, in this time frame, the employer has been benefit from members having to use their resources, computers, internet, utilities, living space, etc., without compensation, while the employer stands to save considerable money by abandoning leases at various work sites across the country. What will you do to ensure that members are no longer carrying the financial burden of the employer? Dim, it's your
Thank you. Thank you, merci beaucoup for that question.
Thank you very much for the question.
Yeah, it's very important. that we address the home use of office. Currently, we are allowed $400 per year in income tax deduction that the employer is allowing us. But having gone through the process, I've added up the cost and it's way beyond 400. So my vision, again, is membership interest, membership benefits. So I'll be taking on and fighting this battle to make sure that that deduction is increased. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. And next up, Eva.
First, I want to say that we would have to do some homework. We have to find out from our members the costs that are involved, and not just the amounts, but all the different types that some of us on the board, if we're there, may not be aware of. And we need to know how many members are actually experiencing these burdens. And we have to put more pressure with Treasury Board and other employers to cover these costs. Now is the time to do that because it is in the forefront and it's not going to go away. If anything, it may get a lot worse in the sense that someone who is working from home now, who used to work in the workplace with an economic or an ergonomic assessment and had a situation where they were taken care of, but at home they're not, they may have been in this situation for now saying, you know what, I can put up with it because eventually I'll get back to work. And that may not happen for a long time. And so we need to address this now, and the pressure has to be strong enough that the employer realizes that it has to be dealt with, and those amounts need to be covered so that there's no financial burden to our members. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Eva. David Young.
Hi. Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's definitely a bargaining issue to be covered under the teleworking clause and the collective agreements. In those agreements, we have clauses that cover the governing of the work you do while you're working at home. And it's in here where you can negotiate with the government these coverage for these additional expenses. So I think this should be an immediate issue for the collective bargaining process. And being on the bargaining team with the NR group, it's something I'm certainly going to be bringing forth during the next round of bargaining. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, David. And David Chu.
I've been looking every single week on the Treasury Board website to make sure there's any new updates or new information from the working at home situation, because my department, as most departments and agencies, probably take the direction and guidance from the center, which is the Treasury Board Secretariat. And then my next step is to make sure that my department is applying the Treasury Board policies and procedures across the board evenly. Is my department doing what they're supposed to do, the application of the Treasury Board directive? And then we got to make sure that if the department has their own policy and procedures, for example, my department, ACOA, has a $500 allotment for each member towards office furniture, a desk and a chair, that it's applied consistently, and that all members have access to getting the furniture. And if it's an accommodation issue, for example, ergonomics, they're accommodated. But in no means, I want to be fair and consistent with the employer, also with our members. If they're asking for, I never had internet, I need a higher gig or a higher speed internet. It's not one of those one size fit all. We have to make sure that we apply it constantly, that all members have the same access. We cannot do it for one and not do it for the other. And we have to do it through consultations to raise it with the employer. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, David. And Sylvia? Oh, unmute.
Désolée. Madame la Présidente, je n'ai pas reçu cette question à l'avance, mais je vais y aller.
I did not receive this question in advance, but I'll do my best from what I understood. I would like to say the following. The employer has been taking advantage of members for some time now. Members are in a trap right now because they are in a situation where they can't truly do anything during the pandemic. We chose to work from home. Some people, like David has just mentioned, there are some members who have a work environment that allows for this and safely they did it. But now the employer took advantage of all these expenses that are being incurred by the members. I think that once the pandemic is over, the PIPS is going to have to sit down with the employer and say members have supported Canadians from coast to coast to coast, and we have to take this into consideration in the collective agreements in the next round of bargaining. We have to make sure that our members are compensated for the expenses that they incurred during the pandemic.
Be it in your home office or in the federal building, PIPS is mandated to provide the highest quality representation to its members collectively and individually.
Time is up, Sylvia. Merci. Pour la question des...
For these questions, they were sent to you to your email that is being used by the committee. So if you did not receive it, please indicate your email in the chat. Send it to Julie or Hugo, and we will make sure that the next questions get sent to you just before the break. I don't know what happened. It's another technical challenge that we had, so apologies, our apologies. So we just sent the questions to Sylvia. It's just that her address was not in the list. I just sent you the other question, Sylvia. I have to say that I did it off the cuff. So thank you for your patience, and thank you, Hugo, for having sent the information. Thank you. And the
sending questions at the last minute was to not give you too much time to have a canned response. So you had even less time than everybody else. So thank you for helping us with this today. So the second question now is in English. Again, I will ask it twice. This is where we start scrambling the order of responders. So I will let the first person to respond know that you're up first before I ask the question, and then I'll simply call on you when your turn comes up. So David Young, you'll be answering first on this one. And the question is, what are your thoughts on discrimination faced by PIPS members, and what will you do about it? Again, the same question repeated. What are your thoughts on discrimination faced by PIPS members, and what will you do about it? You have 90 seconds. Go ahead, David Young.
Thank you. As a white male, I find it very difficult at times to understand, discrimination felt by others. I do read, I do ask questions, and I'd be lying if I told you I understood perfectly how some people who are in a position of facing discrimination, how they might feel. However, I do educate myself. I do reach out. I do try to see things from their point of view. And I think it's important to do so in order to get a better understanding how to then develop means and ways of fighting discrimination in the workplace. And so that's what I plan to do. I have to continuously educate myself in this subject area, and I will. And I go by one motto: I treat others as I want to be treated. And that's it may be old-fashioned, but that's the way I do things, and that's the way I'll do things going forward in the next 3 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. The second person to answer this question is Eva.
Thank you. I have a lot of concerns with regards to discrimination in the workplace. I've been a public servant for almost 35 years now, and I have seen it on a regular basis. And so that only gives me an indication how large and significant the problem is across Canada with this employer. And I want to make sure that we engage our members and we ensure that they have a safe place to come forward with their issues and what they see. And make our EROs right up there for them, ready to put in these cases, and support all of that framework, and talk to the employer and push having these cases dealt with in a timely manner, because that's one area that needs improvement. It takes way too long and too much hurt happens during that time frame. So these are the areas that I would really focus on. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. And next up on this one is Sylvia.
Unmute. Okay. So discrimination is something that we have a legislation for. We need to invoke that legislation. We need to support our members at all times. PIPS needs to be aware of what is going on in the middle of the workplace. We need to contact our stewards, our presidents of consultations to find out what members are living in the workplace. We are there for the members. Without our members, we are not a union. So we need to be listening to our members to find out what type of discrimination is going on in the workplace and to address this. We have remedial actions that we can take as a union and legislation behind us. We want to ensure that there's diversity in the workplace, and diversity involves people from different social and ethnic backgrounds, but also from people of different age groups, different genders or gender identity, and of sexual orientation, religion. It is what makes each of us unique. And of course, a conversation on diversity also welcomes a discussion on inclusion and equity. So I think these discussions need to be had with the employer to stop discrimination or mitigate discrimination, if we can say mitigate or minimize. There should not be any discrimination, of course, but it does happen. It's a reality. It has been for many, many years. And I think we need to take action to be able to support our members.
Time is up. Thank you, Sylvia. Din, you're up next on this one.
Yes, thank you very much. That is a very important question. Let me just get into it. What is not working right now? What is not working right now, discrimination and harassment against our members at the employer is increasing, and it's been increasing even more than before because people feel they can stand up for their rights, so management is retaliating. There's no independent body at the employer. The whole center of harassment and discrimination is controlled by management. They control the grievance process. There's no independent watch body that can oversee the process to make sure that we end discrimination. We do not have that. The grievance process is not working. We need to look at this and how to make it more effective. The way I see it right now is we have to take it away from the employer and have an independent body deal with it. Coming back now within PIPS, again, have you seen the demographic of the panel of peers to handle any complaints? You will find that it is not as diverse as it should be. Again, even within PIPS, there's no independent body.
Time is up, Din. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your response.
That's
David
good.
Chu, you're up next.
No member or employee should be subject to any form of harassment or discrimination. We should be be allowed to work in a safe environment. If I know a member has been harassed or discriminated against, I would go to that member, have a confidential private meeting, so preferably behind closed doors or off-site, where they could speak freely. And I would also let that member know that everything we discuss is in confidentiality. Educate that member by going through what the rights they're entitled to and recourse mechanisms. What are how do you go about filing a human rights discrimination process if they want to do that? Provide the options there for the employee and see if they're comfortable with going forward. I cannot make that employee file a grievance or a discrimination complaint unless they're willing to do so as a cooperating party. And lastly, I would go back to the employer, make sure that we review our awareness and education. There's mandatory training, especially for senior management. It's always the employees that go for the training and not the senior management. Therefore, we have developed a place that people are aware, educated, and know what is a fine line between harassment and discrimination. Thank you.
All right, thank you, David. And that ends our first two questions for this town hall. We are now going to take a break, and when we come back, we will do the two other prepared questions. I'm quite confident at this point that we will have the time to tackle that question on the government announcement on COVID-19 vaccination. And so we will send you that question as well in advance. And we will take a 10-minute break just to allow a little bit more prep time for your answers to those three questions. So the question might take a minute to come in because I think Hugo was only prepared to send you the two questions. So we'll do a 10-minute bio break and prep break, and we will come back at 2:22 by my clock, ready for more. Thank you to our candidates and to our attendees, and see you shortly. Okay, excellent. Everybody's back with us. Nous allons commencer les questions.
We will start with the question for this segment in French once again. And the first person that is going to answer this question will be Sylvia. I'm going to read the question twice, and then I invite you to respond. So this is the question: as a leader, how will you strengthen solidarity within our union? As a leader, how will you strengthen solidarity within our union? Go ahead, Sylvia. As a leader, I would support the organization and awareness activities so that we come back to the engagement, the pre-pandemic engagement. The more we have active members, the stronger our union is going to be.
And ensure that our enduring values of respect, integrity, cooperation, and accountability are respected. We must be reminded of these and act with integrity, honesty, and fairness on sound moral and ethical principles. No matter where the workplace is, cooperation will help us address the challenges of the future. We must continue to build partnerships to work together toward the achievement of common goals. And perhaps most important is our accountability. Communication is paramount to ensure members are well informed of PIP's actions and that PIPS is answerable to members for those actions. Madame la Présidente.
Okay, merci Sylvia. Ensuite, David Chu.
Madam Chair. David Chu.
To build solidarity, I need to treat every single member fairly, respectfully, and honestly. I would start a dialogue with them to begin that conversation. I will listen to them from their point of view. And I'll give you an example. As the employer's non-stop, the non-advertised staffing, it's gone, I guess, AWOL would have think. They just do whatever they like. You know, they have the right to manage. At the same time, my colleagues and employees, members see this as, you know, there's nothing they could do. They're defenseless. So-and-so just appointed so-and-so. They don't have the right qualifications or competencies. So we have to re-engage these, provide that sense of, I guess that show the members that, you know, we're doing something about it, the steward in the workplace. You know, I bring these concerns to the consultations with the employer. You know, I file grievances on behalf of the employees that are affected to make the member know that the union's behind them and that the employer is not just gonna do as they wish. So by members being united, they build that sense of trust and belonging to the union and respect again, so that we could move forward on our issues. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And David Young, you're up next.
Yes, I think leadership, you have to lead by example. I've been project leader in my job for the past 30 years. I think like any project, you have to plan, you know, evaluate your resources, and then you have to lay out a vision that allows members to feel they're part of the union. I've been involved with this union 30 years now, and I can tell you, some of us are getting long in the tooth. We need to bring in some youth. We need to bring in people who we can train, not only for the future, but to let them know our history, where we've come from. And in order to do that, we have to invest in proper education of the members. And I think once the members understand what the union brings to their daily life and their job, then they will become more involved. And I think that's what needs to be done. There needs to be more reach out, especially to the youth. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Eva, you're up next.
Thank you. In order to strengthen our solidarity with our membership, we need to increase our group autonomy. We need to get back to our grassroots of membership engagement. We need to be able to reach our members that are not in the workplace. And more importantly, they need to be able to reach us. Our union has to be transparent and unite our membership. We need to celebrate our successes. Engagement is key to standing together. When we make our membership feel that they truly belong, because of course they do, that and having our support available to them when they need us, then solidarity will just transpire. When we stand together is when issues are dealt with and our needs are met. Engagement is key to this solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. And Dean, you're up last on this one.
Hi, thank you. As a leader, what I will do is respect the autonomies of the group presidents, respect the autonomy of the regional directors, respect the board of directors, work together, lead by example to build consensus. This is what I'm planning to do, is respect, and put member interest first. Nothing but member interest. Not only that, the officials that are not elected, we have to get them engaged. We have to involve them. There's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of committees to sit on. We need to get everybody involved and on board. And that's going to be respect. No more infighting, none of that. We cannot afford that. We are facing new challenges out there, and we need to put membership interest first. And that's how I'm going to do it. That's how I'm going to lead. That's how I'm going to do it. Respect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dean. And we have two more questions left before the closing statements. As you recall, we've added that question on the your reaction to the announcement on COVID-19 vaccination. But first, our fourth question. And the first person to respond on this one is going to be David Young. The question is, do you feel PIPS needs to modernize its union structure and services? And if so, in what areas do you see a need for change? I should add probably, because if you say no, it's going to be a very short answer, that you should feel free to talk about what you think is good about the structure. If you say you don't need to change it, that wasn't in the question. So again, do you feel PIPS needs to modernize its union structure and services? And if so, in what areas do you see a need for change? I think there's an assumption built in there. Over you, Dave.
It's a very broad question. You know, to be honest, I thought about this a bit, and I think, you know, this position I'm running for here, part-time VP, I really think it should be dedicated to someone who's younger than I am, who's starting off in the union, who can reach out to those members who are young. So I would start simple. I would make this position for someone of youth, someone who could reach out to those members that we need to bring into the union to build it for the future. So that would be my solution, is to fire me and fire me and bring a person in who can represent that group of people that are much too silent in the background. And that's one simple thing I would do. And that's it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, David. Dean, you're up next on this one.
Hi. The structure, the structure the way it is, I believe it's okay. The organizational structure. The only thing that I'd do different is try and improve on that accountability framework in terms of governance. We need to be more accountable to the membership, how we spend that money. Are we getting the value for the dollar we spent out there? Are we getting the results? Is any new initiative thought right through? Is this the will of the AGM? So the accountability is where I'd be more focusing on. The structure is there. I believe the value to be added will be on the accountability area. Very quickly, there's one thing that we are missing within our structure is a health and safety committee, which right now we're trying to bring it within the Human Rights Committee because of Bill C-65. It complements that committee. I'm sure we're going to be talking about it in our next question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dean. Eva, you're up next.
Thank you. For myself, I've given the structure at PIPS a lot of thought. And at one time, I actually started doing a report quite a few years ago that never ever got finished. But that being said, I think that our structure does need to change. I think that because of our own workplaces and the environment that we find ourselves in today, which is very different from 30 years ago or even older, and we need to meet those new changes. I want to see regional directors have a wider mandate within their own region. And I would like to see portfolios assigned right across the board. And I want to ensure that consultation is a stronger pillar and is more in the forefront, not just by our groups and our regions, but also consultation. I think that it is the part that's a little weak in our structure, and I want to empower it more and put more energy towards that, whether that's assigning portfolios to different members of the board to act as a chair, as a representative when needed. I think that when we see portfolios across the board, that we'll be able to accomplish much more. And I think that
I'm going to have to interrupt you, Eva. We're at time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And up next is David Chu.
Like I started in my vision statement, PIPS needs to have continuous improvement in place. So yes, I agree there needs to be changes in the structure and services. Since I'm only allowed a minute and a half, I only could give you 2 examples right now. We have to look at, the terms of office for elected officials, starting at the board level. Maybe consider limiting the terms. If you serve 2 terms as a regional director, that's it. Then if you want to move up to part-time VP and full-time VP, yes, 2 more terms at those positions and that's it. So I'm not saying 2 terms as the entire period for the board, but allow that flexibility and have the model where the president after 2 terms could be an ex officio of the board, where to could, keep that experience and bring the value to the continuation of the board. So I like to propose that, I like to see that in PIPS to bring in fresh blood, new ideas, and to be adapting to the 21st century. Secondly, we look at consultations, one of the 3 pillars of our union. There has been talk in the past of a secretariat. I have yet to see that implemented unless I'm completely wrong. In consultation, consultation presidents have a notional budget, but they could hardly access it. without jumping hoops and bounds. You know, there's nowhere in our policies and bylaws that mentions consultation a lot, so we have to strengthen that. And it's very important to have a political lead at these meetings because PSAC, CAPE, and AFRO bring their VPs, elected officials to these meetings. It brings more strength to the table. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And Sylvia.
First, let me say that even though my hair is white, I'm much younger than David Young. So, and I don't think that the part-time vice president position is that of a junior official, but anyhow, that's my personal opinion. I said it in my opening statement, Madam Chair, I want to rebuild, to renew, to lead, and to re-engage with the membership and professional allies. I also want to modernize our collective agreements. For many members, the Institute is a complex web of representation. There are groups, subgroups, branches, regions, regional directors, a board of directors, employment relations officers, various committees, administrative staff, legal counsel, part-time VPs, full-time VPs, CEO, COO, and one president. It is confusing to say the least. The current governance structure is weak. As far as I'm concerned, reporting lines between the board of directors and the executive committee have vanished. Employment relations officers have team leads and assigned departments. Regional directors have regional representatives. Consultation presidents have stewards and a chief steward. But cohesion between these entities is missing. PIPS needs to review its governance structure to make it accountable and responsive. Le conseil d'administration doit faire preuve de responsabilisation.
Board of directors should be show transparency and integrity and represent the members of the AGM. They should be submitted to the same policies and for conflict resolution. Sorry, Sylvia.
But we do have two other opportunities for you to get your messages through to members. So again, we will have first the question on COVID and then your closing statements. Because the question on COVID was kind of inserted at the last minute, it will be in the same order of response as your closing statements. So whatever order you answer this question in is the same order you'll be doing your final statements on. And so the first person to speak on this one is going to be David Chu. I will read the question in French and then in English. So en français, quel est votre...
French. What is your position on yesterday's announcement concerning COVID-19 vaccination, which could mean
What is your position about yesterday's announcement by the government regarding the policy on COVID-19 vaccination that may result in leave without pay for employees that refuse to comply with it? You have 90 seconds. Go ahead, David Chu.
I support the government of Canada's position on the COVID-19 and also the PIP's position. Unless, that member cannot be vaccinated due to the, health reasons or religious based on the religious beliefs. It is important for myself. I have the 2 vaccinations for me to go into the workplace so that, that I don't have to have that constant fear of, oh no, am I going to get, COVID-19 from that affected member, the non-affected member, from somebody, because we're in a private building, we're not a government-owned building, so it's not going to be like a mandatory or mandated for an entire, all the occupants that go to work. So I want that sense of assurance and safety that, I have for myself. And then at the end of the day, going back to my family to feel that I'm safe, I'm not been no infection, anything like that. And also as a safety concern towards my colleagues too in the workplace. And then it's not a one size fit all too, because PIPs didn't have enough time to consult it, that we should look at, people that working from home, could we accommodate them for the teleworkers if they're unvaccinated? So we also look at the accommodation side of it too, and do a scan with the other unions to see if we could file a policy grievance. You need strength in numbers to push back on this. And we think some elements of the new policy procedure is not right for us. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Sylvia, you're going next.
Thank you. This is a double-edged sword. C'est un couteau à deux tranchants, comme on dit en français. D'un côté, nous sommes un syndicat qui défend les droits.
On one hand, we're a union defends the rights of our members in the workplace and has to make sure that we have a healthy and safe workplace for all members. stewards take part in health and safety meetings and defend their moms. Consultation members are working on safety measures in the workplace. We defend all our members, and there are minority of members who, for personal, religious, or medical reasons, aren't vaccinated. We have to follow instructions on health to protect ourselves. In all laws, regulations, and policies, there are always exceptions. As a professional union, we have to be able to define interests and members of all our members.
Must engage with the employer to find out what best practices and accommodations can be put in place to ensure a win-win situation for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dean, you're up next.
Hi, thank you. Look, the vaccination itself does not guarantee that you cannot contract the virus. Having said that, under Canada Labor Code Part 2, the employer has the legal responsibility to ensure that every employee is in health and safe environment. Having said that, for our members who cannot get vaccinated based on religious grounds or health concerns or cultural, because of cultural background, that you cannot get this vaccination, will have to fight for them under accommodation under the Human Rights Act. And it will only have to be on case by case. At the end of the day, when the government mandates that, it will be a long battle if we are to challenge it by policy, but there's going to be immediate concern. I cannot allow for any of our members to go without pay because it's very expensive nowadays. You cannot afford to lose even a paycheck. So we'll have to make sure they are accommodated for those grounds that I've mentioned and work from home and continue to work from home. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Eva, you're up next.
It's Dean, thank you.
Thanks. I saw PIPS took a position with regards to the vaccine rather quickly without reaching out to our membership and our other unions. And this whole thing is not an easy issue. It's dividing our country, and so it's no surprise that it would divide us within the workplace and within our membership. I think that it was wrong for the government to come out with a policy that they didn't involve any consultation with us on. I'm in favor of the vaccine, but it is how the employer enforced the mandatory requirements that I disagreed with. And we have to realize that we will have members that will need us to support them in their decision. And it's up to us as a union to represent those, regardless of how we personally feel about the vaccine in our workplaces. We need to look at the matter from a legal perspective as well as a health perspective. And we need to ensure as a union that we have a platform in place that's going to be able to help our members in whatever situation that they find themselves moving forward. It's what we are as a union, and so we have to take those fronts and ensure that our members are represented in the best possible way. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. David Young.
Yes, I'm in favor of the government's position on the implementation of the vaccine strategy. We're at war with a virus. This is a 1 in 100-year fight that we're facing. We don't have the luxury of negotiating while at the same time our members could become exposed in the workplace. We simply don't have that luxury. I think we need to win this war. We need to get herd immunity, and the only way to effectively do that is implement that everyone be vaccinated where possible. Notwithstanding those with religious views, with health issues or for some other reason because of their cultural backgrounds. I think we need to defeat the COVID-19 virus, and unfortunately, we just don't have time on our side. So I'm in favor of the government's position. I'm not in favor of their sledgehammer approach, but unfortunately, we had 5 weeks of election that used up a lot of valuable time where we could have made some accommodations, but I think we have to defeat this virus. Thank you.
Thank you, David. So that's it for the more recent questions. We're now going to move into closing statements. David Chu, did you have a question on process? I just saw your hand raised. Maybe I misread that. Okay, so
No,
we're going to move into closing statements then. Again, same order as the last question. And all of you were invited to prepare or to share your thoughts on what would you like members to take away about you and why should they vote for you? And so first up is David Chu.
As a PIP steward for over 18 years and PSAC shop steward for 5 years, I have represented members, defended our rights, battled injustices, and advocated for democratic treatment in both the workplace and community. My commitment to you, I will ensure that the Institute is being fiscally responsible with your union dues. I will provide leadership in the next cyclical review for a comprehensive set of proposals to improve the healthcare plan, including expanded coverage for vision care, dental care, and paramedical services. I will provide leadership for occupational health and safety, mental wellness, gender equality, scientific integrity, tax fairness, contracting out, deprofessionalization of our jobs, the jobs that are so vital to the health and safety of Canadians, protecting pensions, our role in the climate crisis, truth and reconciliation, supporting the LGBTQ2S community, racialized worker, and youth. I will provide leadership on pushing back on any federal or provincial government austerity agenda by advocating for economic recovery based on job security, career development and training, and improved public services. I will ensure that the UN remains focused on negotiating a strong and fair collective agreement for all our members. I have always assisted members regardless of group, region, or branch. All members are equal and deserve mutual respect at all levels. Teamwork is key for me, and my approach is based on negotiation rather than confrontation. I strongly believe that my experience and skills will help me make a positive contribution to the Institute. There is no replacement for experience and hard work. If elected, you can count on me to listen to you with curiosity, speak with candor, and act with integrity. I will be open and transparent with you. I am your agent of change. Thank you in advance for your support.
Thank you, David. Sylvia, you're up next.
Over the years, I've always remained loyal and dedicated to the union movement, to PIP's members and the organization. I've worked tirelessly for members in the workplace for the betterment of their work environment and working relationships with management. My heart is in the right place, and I think my reputation precedes me in that regard. I've organized many events and activities from beginning to end to solicit and strengthen engagement. I've represented members at disciplinary hearings, at performance evaluation sessions with management, on the health and safety committees, and on consultation teams. Mes qualités de leadership m'ont vu siéger sur
My
l'exécutif.
leadership qualities have been in the subgroups in branch. As a VP, PTVP, I would work for all the regions, not just Arsene, but also Atlantic, Quebec, Northwest, Columbia, British Columbia, and Yukon. All the regions and all the branches. All the
Learning and sharing my experiences. Like I mentioned earlier, one of my wishes is to simplify and modernize the collective bargaining process, ensuring wages keep pace with inflation. If elected within the next 3 years, I will provide my unwavering support to the president and advice on the executive committee and to the board of directors. I will ensure that members are heard and understood and that the will of the AGM is followed and respected. I will act as board liaison to the RNG by working with members and executives and by reporting on guild issues to the board. I will engage in active listening with our members and their representative bodies. I will ensure their concerns are not only heard, but understood and acted upon. I will strive for continuous improvement, respecting and promoting official languages. I will ensure diversity, inclusion, and equity are taken seriously and acted upon. Du fond de mon cœur, je vous remercie à l'avance de votre
From the bottom of my
soutien.
heart, I thank you and thank you for your support.
Merci, Sylvia. Dean, you're up next.
Did you say Dean? Yes?
Yes, Dean. Yep.
Oh, okay. Thank you. As I had said earlier, my vision is membership interest, membership benefits, and membership representation. That is going to be my central theme: membership, 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 membership. What I'm going to do is build the consensus on the board, implement PIP's mandate and values. The PIP's mandate and values is a very well-written document. It just has to be implemented. It's missing. We do not have to redraw anything. It's there. It speaks volumes. Protect the pensions and human rights violation. With respect to the employer, COVID-19 related accommodation, in particular with regards to mandatory vaccination. As I said earlier, we will have to accommodate our members for various reasons why they cannot be vaccinated. External staffing has become a problem. We need to first make sure that our current membership is hired before we go outside, and that includes promotion. We have to stop contracting out. It started at the Treasury Board, and we know once it starts somewhere, it just evolves and spreads everywhere. So I will fight with the members that are fighting against contracting out right now. Bill C-65 new requirements is being implemented without our consultation. I'll make sure that any initiatives that are being implemented.
We are at time, Dean. I'm sorry. It was 2 minutes. Thank you for your thoughts.
Right. Thanks.
And Eva, you're going next.
Thank you. I'm ready to turn things around in our union. I want to continue the fight for our benefits and our pension, fight against outsourcing, defending public science, and protecting human rights and our minorities. I'll be a strong advocate for our core and separate employer groups. I want to do this within a positive, passionate, cohesive board of directors. I will act in the best interest of our membership, supporting our consultation team and ensuring that our advisory council has a true active voice. I'm running for part-time vice president for you, our members, our union. I'm someone that thinks outside the box when looking at issues and problems. I will be a strong advocate for our public services. I will work hard in getting the work done, and I will be visible to the membership, stewards, and activists. I encourage you to read my bio, which goes over a lot of my experiences that I've had for the last 20-some years with the union. And I want to thank you for taking your time out of your time today to attend this.
All right. Thank you, Eva. David Young, you get the last word before close.
Thank you. There is work to be done. We need to arrange a more efficient, effective collective bargaining process. How do we streamline the bargaining process while getting better collective agreements? We need to more effectively address the outsourcing of members' work. Billions and billions of dollars are being contracted out. We need to develop aggressive new strategies for attracting young members to empower them to protect their jobs. We need to enhance lobbying efforts with provincial and federal associations to gauge the concept of professionalism in the public service. We need to establish more robust lobbying also to protect public service science. Moreover, I think the sleeper issue in the next 3 years will be protecting our pensions from being moved from a defined contribution rather than the current defined benefit plan. I think this is the sleeper issue in the next 3 years, given our financial situation in this country. In closing, it gives me great pleasure to seek your vote for part-time VP to serve and work with you as we look to the future. Let us face the challenges together. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll invite Tom to turn his camera on for closing remarks while I give my own personal thanks to you as candidates and to the attendees as we scramble to address those technical issues and I let myself get confused. It's been a pleasure and I wish you all the best. Over to you, Tom.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lise, for doing an excellent job as always. I'd like to thank the candidates for taking their time to come and speak to the membership. I think it's a vital thing to be able to reach out to the membership, and especially during a pandemic where traditional channels are not available. I want to thank mostly the members for taking time, either taking time off of work today or taking time during their time off to attend this and become engaged. I'd like to encourage all of them to get out there and vote. And again, I'd like to encourage everyone, if you have questions or you worry about or wonder about a position of a candidate, please feel free to reach out to any and all candidates and ask your questions directly to them. Unfortunately, we could not answer all of the questions today, and we've tried to include as many subjects as we could that were raised by the members. I'd like to leave you with this thought. Please stay safe and please stay healthy. Take care of you and your families. And thank you very much for attending.